Welcome to our final episode of our AI tool series that we have done this fall. So this is the hot episode, and really and truly, this is going to be advanced and creative ways to use AI. I will tell you myself that I really have had to do some digging and some research to get some of these things, and there are still lots and lots of things that I do not know about AI and am not sure about. So what I am hoping to show you today is just some maybe more outside the box ways that you want to incorporate AI. These would be great if you're already jumped in and you're using it for the basics and you really want to really move up on that SAMR model comes into mind, the substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. The things that we're doing today are really in that M and R, the modification and redefinition phase of that chart. So let's go ahead and get started with this today. So we are just going to look at a few more simple tools. I'm going to revisit Canva today just because it has some really powerful tools for some design projects. We are going to revisit Gemini, and then I have a new friend called Claude that I'm going to introduce you to. I learned about him at the computer science conference that I attended back at the beginning of October. And so Claude is really, really good at computer programming and doing some other things and some data analysis and things like that. So we are going to look at some generative art and design because I have some really good ideas for projects I think that some students of all age levels would enjoy. The AI powered storytelling, I'm just going to show you how to use a chatbot tool similar to what we've done before. And then another strategy to help teachers really gain some analysis and insight in their classroom to utilize Claude and Gemini to do those things for you as well. So as usual, I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth between some tools and presentations. I've got most of it loaded up here at the top for you, as you can see. So we're going to be doing some clicking. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and look at is the power of Canva's magic media. So I attended an AI professional development, and I feel like it's been forever ago, but it really hasn't been that long ago. But this was like the cutting edge thing that Canva was doing at the time. So I'm going to play it. This is not something I made. As you can see, this is by an A2M specialist. But Edgar Allan Poe, apparently kids are doing a unit, and so this is what they made in Canva. So you can get the picture. This is a photo of Edgar Allan Poe. Obviously, it's not a real life recording of Edgar Allan Poe, but it's a voice that we could pick that would be what we think may be very similar to his. And he is narrating one of his poems that he wrote. So how cool is that for you to do an author study on an author and then find a picture, find a voice that you think that sounds like, and it reads some of their work. So I'm going to kind of go step by step to show you some things for that. So the first thing that we need to do in Canva, I'm going to come back over here to my blank one, is on our Canva homepage, we need to go to this more icon and take a look at some of these apps. Now, I will say this, I hope that you do have permission to do this. I do have this feature turned off for students, I believe, that they cannot add their own apps, but there are so many different things than there used to be. So you could take a look through here too and look at some of the AI generation, audio and voiceover, graphic design, video and animation for these kind of things. So the app that we're actually going to look for today, I see it already, but we are going to look for this D-ID AI Avatars app. So this is going to be an app you're just going to click and you may have to kind of install it. I already have it installed on mine, so there may be a button that says add to Canva or something like that right there. So you do need to add it. There's also, if you see how many are on there for AI, I mean, there's tons. Generate stickers in here, animate images, do animated captions, custom music. I've seen a couple of those things that are like doing different mixes and things like that. That is super cool. Lots and lots of things. So this is just the tool that I have used in the past, so I'm going to use it similarly again. So I'm now going to jump over. I did just an untitled Instagram post because it allows me pretty much free range to do my design. I'm not going to put any elements or anything on it right now. I'm just going to come down here to, you may have to click your apps button and you'll see the different apps right here. Now the Magic Media, we've talked about it before, has come a long way. Before Magic Media, this is kind of, we had to piece together some different things. But I'm going to open up our DID AI avatars. So you can upload your own picture in here if you would like to. So I kind of got an idea, and it comes from my 12 Days of Digital Christmas, where it was animating, you know, a Christmas character singing. But I was looking through here practicing, and I happened to find a pretty jolly figure right there. So I have found an avatar of Santa. So I'm going to add Santa in here. And so now I can add a source. So nothing's coming up on my design yet, okay? But I need to add a source. I can either type in a script, or I can record or input some type of audio file. So I'm just going to do Santa's signature line. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. We can also get some inspiration. We can do an AI helper, all of those things. So now we can choose a voice. Oh my goodness, there are so many choices. We can have an angry voice, a sad voice, a multilingual voice. We can have all these random names. Let's just, Clyde's sticking out to me. Let's see what old Clyde sounds like. A little interesting. Here's a cheerful one. Santa's cheerful. Okay, we'll go with cheerful. So we're going to use that voice, and then video name, and I'm going to generate this. So it's going to take a few minutes to take all of the things that I have put into this generation tool to create this image. So keep in mind, like we have said in many of these things, we have to give the inputs for this to be able to get something out, that a product that we are wanting. So we have inserted my media. Oh, it picked Clyde. I didn't want Clyde. Let's change it back to my cheerful. Let's use Davis. Let's go back. So sorry. Let's regenerate that. Let's delete that. We need our cheerful Santa. See, everything, I do not do everything perfect the first time. This is real life. Now let's see. And instantly we have made a video of Santa. You know, even if you can't think of an application to use this in your classroom, if you've got little ones at home, you can type in their name, specifically what they've done. So here's your parent hack for today, is creating a Santa AI who can talk to your kids and tell them what they need to fix before Christmas. So the possibilities here are endless. If you have students that you are wanting to present something but they don't feel comfortable being on the camera, have them make an avatar and upload it, and be able to speak and voice their opinions and voice their, you know, what they're wanting to say through this avatar. I know that's not the same always as face-to-face, but for some kids, that may be all that they can do. So I really, really like this feature. You could upload different pictures. Again, the voice options are endless. I really like this avatar tool because it is pretty simple to use. So then you could simply, you know, download this file. You'll have to make sure that you share it as some type of, probably an MP4 file. These would also be super fun to do on the view boards as well, if you're the person who does that for your school. So Canva has a really good option, and I think the projects for this could be endless. Some ideas that were given in the presentation and some of the research I was doing too, like in a history classroom, you know, if we were doing different historical figures, Abraham Lincoln giving his speech, you know, those are some things that students could recreate and really bring those historical figures to life that I think would be super interesting for kids to do. That may be... this was kind of an immersive and interactive learning experience. So it's kind of virtual role playing where they could have a debate back and forth, use AI generated counterpoints. And this really kind of makes students develop those critical thinking skills. And it mentions this phrase right here, conversational intelligence. Those are not Katie's words. Those are some brainstorming words I got whenever I was bouncing around some bullet points in Gemini, because I did use AI to make this presentation. But I love those conversational intelligence skills because we, especially at our high school level, we talk about kids being on their phones all the time and not knowing how to have a conversation. even if we're using technology to do it through an avatar, they are still having to feed in that script. So this key part right here, if we don't put in text or we don't put in audio, it's not going to generate anything. So we are still using our thoughts, our skills to come up with the things that we want the avatar to say. And I feel like that's really powerful. So now let's go back over. I'm going to actually jump to one other thing first that I want to mention I didn't mention earlier. So we've bounced back and forth between like Magic School AI and School AI. School AI is usually my preferred one. I think that they've got some really simple activities. They have the little assistant where you can, or the spaces where you can do the room. But there is something on here that I wanted to point out, and that is the assistants. So this is really going to be for teachers. So if you are wanting to come up with a field trip, I like this one right here because it's super easy and I can come up with something on the fly for this. I want to bounce back and forth some ideas with a field trip. So let me slide my bar over right here. Help me plan a field trip to the zoo for my first grade students. I need an agenda, a parent permission slip, and an interactive and a bingo card for my students to complete on the field trip. I saw a teacher sent home over Thanksgiving break a bingo card for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which I thought was genius. So right here, immediately, I'm using School AI to help me generate some ideas. Now, I may not use all of these things in here, but it's given me some ideas of things that we could do to break this out. What needs to go on our parent permission form, and some bingo card examples of, students to cross off the animals when they see it. Now, does that look super cute? No, we could probably talk back and forth and get a cuter design or things like that. But the customize the animal list for your local zoo, I could probably just input the website for the Birmingham and Montgomery Zoo, and it can make one specific for those. So I wanted to really just point out this assistant category too in School AI if you've been scared to click on it. I love this digital literacy coach. That may put me out of a job, or it may make my life easier if we can use the digital literacy coach. Help me find a software solution, outline important digital literacy, quiz me on digital literacy. Let's say, how can I teach a lesson on password security to third graders? Especially with our new digital literacy and computer science standards coming out next year. They're in a draft phase right now. We could probably plug in some of these standards and be able to get some ideas back and forth here. So, I remember spending hours doing research trying to come up with activities for things, and now I can simply type in a sentence into this assistant and be able to get some interactive ideas. So, it gave me 7 activities that can be done, and then a review. It was offering to, I would love a printable worksheet. So again, it's not rocket science, but it is something that I did not have to come up with on my own, and that I can print easily for my students. So I really like this assistance category. Also, with our organized category, we could kind of take our things and we can organize the different things that we have created. You can see the things that I have been doing in AI. And then, you always have we can come back to the tools. I do just want to point out, I put it in my What the Tech newsletter for the month of December. If you have already seen that, the jokes category, there was coming up with some reindeer riddles. I think that would be super cute to let your kids come up with jokes and like do a joke every day for the month of December. That'll be something really fun. I think they would enjoy doing too. Okay, so now the other thing we're going to take a look at today is some data and analysis. So one hot topic in our district is that we just got our school report card scores. They came out the middle of November, and we really like to see our growth and our change from year to year. So I'm using that as an example today, but you can use it in your classroom if you were looking at comparing iRating diagnostic scores, or you're wanting to evaluate your efficiency in literacy groups or things like that. These AI tools are going to be able to have you some powerful points be able to compare this data and help you maybe see trends and gaps and things like that that you might not would have seen before. So I've already kind of played around with both of these because I wanted to make sure it was going to give me kind of what I wanted. So this is not live, but I went to Gemini. It's usually one of my preferred tools just because it's in Google and everything exports into Google real easily. So I just said I would like to analyze data between school report cards to help me gain insight on areas we need to focus on as a school district. You can notice, and we're going to move into this transition once we finish up with these tools, how specific my entry was. So that's one thing too, that whenever we are working with these AI tools, we've got to be very specific on what we're asking for. Can I upload some data? So sure I can. Please upload your file and help us prepare. What things are you wanting to see? Well, I really didn't answer this question. I just said these are comparing academic and indicator scores. So this made a pretty simple chart for me because instantly I can see green is good, red is bad. So it looks like we made progress in our English language proficiency, our college and career readiness, our academic achievement, our graduation rate. Our chronic absenteeism was a little bit less, and then our academic growth actually went down a few points. So this is something that everybody is going to be able to easily understand, that I can look at this and I can instantly see what has the most growth, what has the least, and where do I need to work. And then we also had kind of a table right here, and then it gave me some areas to focus on. So academic growth, so this was our biggest kind of decline. This is the most critical area to focus on to improve instructional strategies. And then it kind of gives me some areas of improvement. So if we're wanting to highlight areas, it broke those down. And then what would you like to analyze next? So I could even go down into specific schools from here. So I did this same thing over in Claude, and I've got Claude kind of also pulled up right here. I'm going to go back in a second, but I started out pretty generic with Claude. Can you help me analyze some data? Well, sure. And it says that it can do various types of data analysis: statistical, visualization, cleaning and processing, pattern recognition, predictive modeling, and it works with different file formats. So I told it the same thing. I uploaded the exact same 2 files that I did to Gemini, and it says it'll be able to explore our metrics. So great, we can see our data. So it gave me this beautiful, easy to read overall performance comparison right here. I can see year to year. Purple is 2024, green is 2025. I can see which areas had our gains. It shows me if it was red, green with our up arrows. And then it gives me some good insights about things to monitor, and our green checks, which would be our overall improvements. And then it gave me some also things right here. So what I love about this, even though I can go to look at the report card scores, all of this we could do by hand 100%, but we could also just upload these files and it be able to easily give us some pinpoint areas. So it says, would you like for me to dive deeper into any specific metric or create additional visualizations? Can you please give me some things to focus on to help improve academic growth? We'll just see. This one's going to be live and winging it as a district. So again, I'm chatting, I'm having the same kind of conversations. So now Claude is going to give me some things that I can look for to help get that academic growth percentage up. So again, you may have your own set of data to look at, but I love how this one is not just giving me answers though, it is giving me strategies to look at. So this one right here, leverage your college and career readiness program. What instructional strategies drove your CCR improvements? Apply those same approaches to core academic classes. That gets me thinking, okay, what are we doing to get kids CCR'd? And let's take these things and let's move them into academic growth areas and areas that need improvement. Right here, it tells me I saw another question too. Students with disabilities, what is their growth trajectory? Are we looking at these subgroups? So this is the thing about Claude, is that Claude really goes very in depth, and Claude not only provides you some information, but is also asking you to come back and think about those things as well. So I will say this, we did some simple coding with Claude that was really not so simple for Katie and was pretty much above my head. But if you are a computer science guru, Claude is really good at helping you debug coding. It's helping you come up with some JavaScript coding, and do a lot more things. Another thing about Claude, I'm going to just go ahead and X out of this one. You can create different projects with Claude that you can save and come back to over and over again. In a narrative story for my 10th graders in world history. Let's see what it comes up with this. This was one of our suggestions for our presentation too. So I'm a teacher, I'm trying to come up with a project too. Here's some starting points for me, like which historical period are we doing? What do we want to do with our narrative? Introduce a topic, illustrate a concept. What is our POV? Are we a historical figure? Are we multiple POVs and things like that? So this, again, it says Claude can make mistakes, but this is a really good conversational AI tool from what I've seen, and it really makes the user think pretty deep, because I have been doing some deep thought as well for that. So that is kind of our data analysis. So we did our virtual, we looked at the immersive and interactive experiences. So this is another one right here. I could see this going so well in enrichment classes and some AP classes and things like that. If we have students who are consistently working above and beyond the realm, they're going outside the box, they're really wanting to push their limitations. Like, I love this world building simulation where we are using AI images in Canva, where we are getting ideas in, from a chatbot, and we are building entire classroom systems, focused around this thing. And you could put them in groups, and the things that they could come up with to be, group projects, and to really expand their boundaries as far as creativity goes, while also investigating a core subject. I think that the limits are just endless here. And that is going to take some leadership from you, and some facilitation and some modeling and things like that. But I think that these are some things that kids could really, really get involved in, and would really go into that niche for some of them, where they can express their creativity. If they're very literary, they can come up with different things. If you've got people who are super into, like the gaming kind of fantasy world, they could come up with their own type things using AI tools. So I left this slide without a specific tool, because you could really use any of the things that we've covered. So the last thing I want to kind of talk about to wrap up our AI series is, our roles and responsibilities that we have with AI. So I have reiterated over and over again that, all of the AI tools that I have mentioned in these presentations have been vetted. Most of them are just for adult use. Some are for student use. But I just want to kind of go over some constraints that when we're using AI, where we want to make sure that we're paying close attention to. So academic integrity being number one of them. A lot of teachers said, well, I want all AI blocks because I don't want my kids using it because it's cheating. In Google Classroom, whenever they submit an assignment, there is a box whenever you create an assignment. And we have time. I'm just going to jump over there really quickly. Probably should have already had this loaded, but we will just pretend. Let me find my test class right here. So whenever we are looking at creating assignments right here, so I'm going to go to edit really quickly. So I can do that. I want to check plagiarism of their work whenever they're adding assignments. So the students can actually run their own originality reports as well, but teachers can do that. So I did have some students turn in some work right here. So I remember we literally went to ChatGPT and Googled this, and I did check plagiarism, originality. So it's going to run a report. So the thing about this with generative things, though, is that some of it is not going to pop up as 100% plagiarized, because it's generative AI. The students have put in a prompt, they've developed a prompt, and they've worked with this to generate an original product. So it's not necessarily going to come up as plagiarism. Whenever we used to do our Turnitin.com in college, that was for copying and pasting things directly from the web. So you can see there's no flagged passages. So this is not going to be 100% foolproof. We've got to make sure that we are educating our students on the process of AI, that we're not just putting in one prompt and getting one answer and copying it, that is helping us develop a final product, and we can really see that. I don't think it's a bad idea that if you want to encourage the use of AI in your classroom, that you ask the students to submit their chat, to say, I want to see your thought process behind all this, because now that can be recorded. Where used to, we wrote out our rough draft by hand, we did conferences, we wrote all over it, and then we went back and typed it up. Now that could be done with a bot through a space in School AI that we could go back and see those things. When we are putting in prompts too, we want to make sure that we're not looking for certain biases, or we're not emphasizing certain biases, and that we want to make sure that everything is being representative across all demographics. We also want to make sure that we are going by our legal aspects, that we are being compliant to FERPA and COPA, and we're never putting student information into AI tools. So if you are wanting some data analysis and things like that, we do not need to input their student numbers, their first name, last name. We need to kind of give them some generic letters or numbers or things like that to be able to not input their information into that bot. And then I bolded this, that AI is a starting point, not a replacement for scholarly research. It is supposed to be like having a conversation with an educated colleague, or having a conversation with another person in the class, being a study group, being a peer, not the absolute truth. So that we want to make sure that we are fact checking things if we were doing something very specific that has facts in it. And then there is another framework, the CTCE framework for effective prompting. It's just 4 letters to kind of help you remember. This was whenever I mentioned earlier about being very specific about what you're wanting. So one thing is define what your POV is, the context of it. You are a university level historian. I want a narrative for my 10th grade world history class. You are a kindergarten teacher. You are a parent of my student. That we want to make sure that the AI bot is giving the appropriate response for that person. Provide a clear task. If you want a chart, if you want a diagram, if you want a printable worksheet, if you want a presentation, you need to make sure that you're putting a clear desired output there. Constraints, that you want certain things to be under 300 words, or you want your slide deck to only be 10 slides. And then, it is never a bad idea to ensure that there is something in there for ethics, that especially if we went back to that historical debate thing right there that was mentioned earlier, that our argument is balanced, and that maybe, we don't want mention of a certain group or a certain country or things like that, so that everything is ethically and morally correct. So now this is kind of where we need to jump out of the nest a little bit. So I encourage you that if this is your first one to watch, this one is probably not near as exciting as the other ones, because this one is so much more, thinking outside the box. I could demonstrate things for you all day, but the goal of this last session of the series is really to inspire and allow you to foster your innovative skills in the world of AI. So I encourage you to try one thing with AI this week. Try finding a simple image and having your students animate it, even if it's just whole group, but discuss the process. I would also encourage you, especially moving forward, to have conversations with your students about AI, about what your expectations are for that. Are you encouraging the use of AI in their drafting practices or in their problem solving practices? Or, and explain when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. Setting those clear expectations is going to set you up for success and them as well. And communicating that very clearly, even putting it in your syllabus. And then, sharing successful prompts. If you tell a teacher, oh, I got that from ChatGPT, well, that's great, but I don't know how to get exactly what you got, because I don't know what you told ChatGPT. So, if you are working with a department or a grade level, making just a shared document or something like that, where you can share things that you put in to kind of help other people realize, like, oh, this is how they started that, and this is what they said, and things like that. So I want to kind of wrap up with this last sentence, that the future of our education is collaborative, creative, and it is AI enhanced, because it is everywhere. And we have the power to lead this transformation responsibly and inspirationally with our students. So there's my email. I know you've got it if you're watching this video. I am always happy to help. I'm happy to help collaborate. I'm happy to help co-teach in your classroom. And I want you to remember that this is never going to replace the impact you have on your students. And I am always happy to help you try new things. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your year and go try those AI tools.